Mark.
Ifu.
Heather. Redmond.
Where's your other son in Texas? Where in Texas is your other son?
Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay.
And he is so upset because Texas is not a good example of how to handle this virus and this pandemic. He is so upset, and he knows enough about it. So he signed up early for vaccinations, but they're not even down to his level yet because they haven't done the older people yet. He just thinks that this governor is he can't wait to vote against him. But he believes the governor isn't going to be able to withstand the shock of people being so upset about his total mismanagement of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, good morning, everyone. I'll jump into the conversation. This is Brett Blankenship, Chair of the WSU Board of Regents, calling to order Board of Regents meeting, Washington State University, Friday, March 12th at 9 a.m. This meeting of the WSU Board of Regents is called to order, and I welcome everyone. I'd like to remind the audience that the Regents as well as presenters are participating in this meeting via Zoom. Members of the public are invited to view the meeting via YouTube live stream. A link to the live stream is available through the Board of Regents website. I would also like to provide a reminder that we will have a public comment period during this meeting. The public comment period will be after the regular agenda items and will be for up to 10 minutes. Each speaker is allowed 2 minutes. So at this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to President Schultz for a brief report.
Thank you, Brett, and to our colleague Regents. Thought we had a great meeting yesterday and really appreciate all the hard work that goes into this. And we've all gotten used to sort of day-long Zoom meetings, and I really do thought that we had good discussion and dialogue yesterday on a series of topics. I want to highlight especially the great work that Stacy Pearson and her team has done. I think, near the end of the day, when we were going quickly through some of the graphs that show the overall fiscal health of the university, we just quickly blew through that. And it's just been a long journey. Our faculty, staff, and students, the Board of Regents, and others have stepped in. And I just appreciate the job that our finance and administration teams have done, both across the system and at the campus level. I also want to acknowledge our faculty and staff and students. It's been a year that we've been under sort of a pandemic, a fugue, if you will, and it's neat to feel like we're coming out of that a bit. But higher ed is traditionally, as many of you know, had a reputation of we move at glacial speeds. We can't do anything quickly. And I still think we'll look back multiple years out and you come back and say, people shifted to online education in a lot of places in less than 2 weeks. And I think it's gotten better, the way we teach, the way we interact with our students across the year. And we've learned a lot from this time that I think is going to be really helpful moving forward. But just thanks to our faculty, thanks to our staff, and thanks to our students for hanging in there with us and helping us get better. I want to also acknowledge that over the last couple of weeks, we've had some major investments at WSU. And I think as Regents, you all have seen this, these have been public announcements, but we announced a new $2 million endowed chair that is supported by the Washington fruit tree industry and the holder of that. And that gives that individual some resources to make a difference for Washington agriculture. We had a $2 million investment from Northwest Farm Credit that provided some laboratory renovation and allows us to complete some laboratory projects that we needed to do, some support for students and faculty, and we really appreciate that as well. And then Ken and Sue Christensen made a $1 million commitment to enhancement of some of our athletics facilities, and then Scott and Lisa Taylor had already made a $2 million commitment to the indoor practice facility. They upped that with another $5 million. It's now the largest gift in athletics history, largest cash gift. And I just think you add all this together, and it's just a reminder, we have a set of dedicated alumni who want to invest in excellence at WSU. And I really appreciate that. And I know we're talking to folks on some other exciting projects that as we get those documented and signed, that I think are also going to be great for our community and community writ large in the state, and giving our faculty, staff, and students the types of facilities they need to be successful in research, teaching, and service. The fourth and final thing in my report is really talk a little bit about our One WSU initiative. And I know I've kept the Regents involved and engaged with our optimization, or taking that next steps in our system planning. And we put out a couple concept papers. They garnered quite a bit of dialogue and discussion. And that's what you want to do with something like that. And there were a couple issues that came up on those papers that caused some real concern legitimately by our campus community, among our faculty, staff, and students, about were we going to break up academic departments artificially across the campuses? How would we maintain excellence in faculty ranks? How do we keep and make sure that we have our research mission and the ability to advise graduate students as an integral part of all our different campuses? And so Elizabeth and I made some changes and modifications to those things in response to the feedback that we gotten. And I appreciate the fact that we are engaged in a lively and productive discussion with our faculty and staff colleagues across all of our campuses as we look forward on our system optimization work. There's really 5 things that I think I would share that have come out of some of the feedback that we've gotten thus far. The first is that a silver lining for COVID has been the use of Zoom, and some of the issues around campus communication, not in Pullman, but Pullman and other campus communities at the faculty level, at the departmental level. It's forced everybody to use a tool so that now some of the communications issues that were really prevalent in the system aren't there in the same way they were prior to COVID. And I think this is a really positive step in the right direction. And I think there's been a recommitment, I feel, from deans, chancellors, and others, that the current model of the way we do a lot of our degree programs and things across the system is really the right way to do things. And trying to change a lot of that would just simply to take something that isn't broken and change it just for the sake of change. So I think that's a really positive. The second, I think there's starting to be a fairly broad consensus that there are some functions that, if handled appropriately at a system level, would allow us to do a better job across all of our campuses instead of replicating things 4 or 5 or 6 times at the college or campus level. Some of those areas that have come out include, and I'm reading from my list to make sure I don't forget, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just a few of the things that people continue to mention: compliance, government relations, finance and administration, human resources, IT services, fundraising were frequently mentioned by deans and chancellors as the types of things that a well-constructed system would really help them to do their job well and probably allow us to focus our resources differently. The third thing I'll mention is that a budget model continues to be mentioned again and again by all campus groups, and it's a chicken and egg problem. People can say, well, if you set the structure, then you could set the budget model that fits the structure. Other people say it should be the opposite. And what we're doing is Elizabeth and Stacy have a team of faculty, staff, students, and administrators. They're putting together a revised budget proposal for the way WSU would budget as a system. And we expect to have that out in at least a preliminary form in May. And so I think this is something that's been pointed out a lot. And the last thing I'll say, and then I'll conclude my report, is several people commented and said, well, you know, the system stuff's fine, Kirk, but what problem are you trying to solve? I mean, what do you want to accomplish at the end of it besides shuffling chairs around? And I think there's 4 key things that in my mind we're trying to do. The first is position WSU strategically for future growth in student population across the state. The second is to provide enhanced opportunities for our campuses to shape their academic and student programs to be aligned with their particular students as well as individual community needs and expectations. The third is to provide clarity on authority and decision-making. Fourth is to put in place an appropriately staffed administrative structure that provides system-level support and that does not need to be duplicated at the individual campus level. Those are the four things. And look, we're going to continue to have disagreement. We're going to continue to have different ideas. And I think that's what we want to continue to do, is facilitate those conversations. So with that, Mr. Chair, that concludes my report. It's been an amazing year journey. It's one of those journeys that I'm sort of glad we may be near the end of it. And I think the leadership challenge we have for the next year or so is, how do we make sure that we take some of the good positives that have come out of the pandemic and make that part of our normal operational style? And then what things do we need to change and go back to the way we did things before? And I look forward to discussing this with the Regents, with the faculty and staff, and continuing to making sure we're just doing a fantastic job for all of our students across the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk. Thank you for the positive report. Any questions for the president?
No question, but I just wanted to comment that I love those 4 reasons why. I think those are very strong and give me a lot of sort of framework to react to specific proposals within. So really appreciate that. And I'm sure it's got to be helpful to everybody else in the process as well.
I'll send my comments on this as part of my Friday report next Friday, so that you all have this in writing too. So thank you.
I just would like to say, a shout out and a thank you to Elizabeth. I think we're starting to really see the fruits of her role and her leadership and her experience, and how that's helping you, Kirk, address, just things that this Board of Regents, a year ago talked to you about, and just, how do we help you be broader and more strategic across the state? And we're seeing some of that even in the midst of COVID. We're landing large gifts that I know you were instrumental in with helping Pat, but I also recognize, and I think the Regents do, that having Elizabeth being able to do some of this really, really important work alongside it. So thank you very much, and thank you for the teamwork on that.
Yes, thank you very much for that. It's really been quite a pleasure. I'm just about to cross my 8-month mark. Kirk said it felt more like 8 years. I'm not sure how to take that, but I'll take it as positive and just say it's really been a pleasure, and that this was one of the things, the systemness that Kirk just talked about was one of the things that I talked about a year ago with the search firm as we were moving into my interview process. And it's something I've talked with my colleagues about most. Other than COVID response, this has been the exciting work and working with colleagues as WSU advances its mission. So thank you for that.
Thank you. We look forward to more engagement on how the system takes shape going forward. So for the board members that are newer to the board than I am, one of the things we've been missing, aside from meeting in person and enjoying that type of interaction, is taking the show on the road, so to speak. Oftentimes when we do meet together, we meet at the various campuses in the system. Normally this would be the meeting where we would meet at the TriCities Campus, and graciously hosted by Chancellor Haynes. So at this point of the meeting, I'd like to offer the floor from the Chancellor of the TriCities Campus, Dr. Sandra Haynes. Sandra?
Thank you, Chair Blankenship. I appreciate the time, and I have a lot of great things to report and some not so great things to report as well. So here we go. So it's interesting to me that this time last spring, we met on the TriCities campus just before we all shut down because of the pandemic. But at that meeting, I presented plans for moving WSU Forward. I think I do have some slides. There they are. Okay, very good. Now I have lost. Hold on one second. There we go. So I presented plans for moving WSU forward. I'm pleased to report that we really did make some great progress over this past year, despite the pandemic. And yes, there is still work to be done, and I'll report on both of those things. So ready for slide 2. In December, we announced the completion of the campus strategic plan. As you can see on our slide, or maybe not, it's a little bit small. The goals in that plan are student success, research and scholarship, accessibility and equity, regional and community engagement, campus culture and environment, and institutional effectiveness. These were all developed with a large amount of input from faculty, staff, and our community. So what we're doing right now is we're developing a public-facing dashboard so that people can see our progress, and that will be available on our website by the end of this semester. And I'm ready for the next slide. The pandemic has provided us with an opportunity to complete construction of our new academic building, which you see in the pictures here, but also do some badly needed renovations on campus. Starting with the new building, the construction remains on schedule and within budget. We've actually done a fabulous job within our budget and have been able to do a lot of upgrades that we were hoping to do in the beginning and are now seeing come to fruition. We anticipate taking occupancy of this building in June, so we're very excited, and it's a little bit further along than you see in that snowy picture, and I can assure you that that snow is not here today. It's a beautiful sunny day here in the Tri-Cities. But the building is 40,000 square feet, and it houses a suite of our teaching laboratories. All of our science laboratories for undergraduate programs will be housed in that building. It has active learning classrooms and collaborative meeting spaces for students and faculty, and actually our community partners. This staircase that you can see in the upper right is designed as an auditorium sort of meeting space, and we'll be using that for public presentations. The building was fully funded by Washington State Legislature, which we are very excited about. And even still, we are seeking naming gifts to enhance the facility. I think I can say this, our first gift has already come in, and it was graciously given to us by President Kirk Schultz and First Lady Noel Schultz. We will announce this a gift officially in late March, but we are very grateful for this generous donation and the support that it shows for the campus. The grand opening ceremony for the building is tentatively scheduled for fall. Fingers crossed, we will all be able to attend in person, and of course you will all receive an invitation. Articulating with the new building is our library, which is a huge space and not very well put together, I will say. So we are taking the opportunity to modernize the library space into what we're calling a learning commons. So we're moving the library resources to the second floor, and we'll be placing all academic support services like advising, career services, tutoring, the writing center, the testing center, the access center, and all of our TRIO student support services on that first floor so that students have easy access and one-stop shopping to easily meet their academic support needs. Next slide, please. We've also upgraded our Stories Veterans Monument. It's fully renovated and now fully recognizable as a veterans monument. It used to be just that stack of books statue in the middle that you can see, and people did not recognize that as a veterans monument. So it has really changed. As you can see, it now looks like a veterans monument. We will be replacing those older benches with some new ones soon. But it has really changed the south entrance of our campus. And anytime I'm on campus like I am today, I always see people passing through the monument now, stopping to read the stories that are on that statue, or sitting on the benches and enjoying the scenery, because there's a beautiful view of the river from that monument now. So we will be unveiling this monument along with the General James Mattis Leadership Library that we installed in the newly renovated Veterans Center again this fall. And again, you will all receive an invitation to that. I have to say that we're also very grateful to General Mattis for giving his name to this effort. The idea for the leadership library came from his book, Call Sign Chaos, which I just love that chaos stands for Colonel has another outstanding suggestion, in which his superior officers rolled their eyes whenever he would come to him with his many suggestions. I have a feeling that Kirk may do that for me by just changing Colonel to Chancellor, but that's a rabbit hole we won't go down. But in that book, General Mattis expresses the importance of being an avid reader by stating, "Thanks to my reading, I have never been caught flat-footed by any situation, never at a loss for how any problem has been addressed successfully or unsuccessfully before. It doesn't give me all the answers, but it lights what is often a dark path ahead." And he implores us all to read, read, read. So we are really delighted to be able to give veterans access to his favorite leadership books, and in turn, his favorite leadership tools. Next slide, please. As mentioned last year, WSU Tricities has strategically begun focusing on building out our research strengths by matching current strengths on the campus with the directions of the Mid-Columbia region. It is apparent that the Tri-Cities and the Mid-Columbia region are leaders in agriculture, especially wine, energy, and the environment. So we have a great opportunity in front of us to grow in those latter two areas. Energy and the environment really represent the Mid-Columbia's past, present, and future, and the region's unique and rich energy setting is critical to the Northwest's economic growth. The Tri-Cities and WSU Tricities, we believe, can play a strategic role in helping define the future of decarbonized energy. The region has nearly every sector of the power market in its backyard. Nuclear power, we have the only nuclear power plant in the Pacific Northwest, and we will soon be hosting research on the small modular reactors. We have solar, we have hydropower, we have a ton of wind, and we have the capacity to turn that wind into energy. And we're working closely, especially at PNNL, with energy storage. With the WSU Tri-Cities local strength in biofuels and bioenergy development, and with the backing of the entire WSU system's energy assets, which are vast, we believe that WSU Tri-Cities is ready to take a leadership role in assisting with the development and deployment of the decarbonized future we all need. We're doing this in two ways. First, we have combined the PNNL WSU Joint Institute for Bioproducts co-director position with the co-director position in our on-campus biosciences engineering laboratory. This action will help solidify the relationship between these two entities and also the shared facility on our campus. Secondly, we are working to create a new institute, the Institute for Northwest Energy Futures, which we just got approval to use that name yesterday by the Faculty Senate on an interim basis at least, so that's very excited. And that institute has also been, or the development of that institute has also been supported with a $500,000 lead gift to fund an endowed professorship. This endowed distinguished professorship at WSU's Tri-Cities, once we hire it, will provide leadership in designing and developing the Institute to leverage all of those WSU energy and environmental assets to focus on the Mid-Columbia region. The Institute will also provide thought leadership in regional energy system configurations and provide economic evaluations of power production, transmission, storage, fuel productions, and industrial applications. All of the things that we need to bring together our sources of energy and put them into a stable and well-functioning grid and other ways and other aspects around that. We believe, and we actually, I'm pretty convinced of it, the initiatives are not only good for the TriCities campus, but they are also true system initiatives, because remember, we're going to be bringing all of the expertise to bear in this institute. And this is in line with the president's vision for greater systemness and one WSU. We're very excited about the possibilities on our campus and across the system with both of these initiatives. Next slide, please. And now to some of the challenges. Enrollment continues to be a challenge for us. For spring 2021, our total student headcount dropped by 78 students, and for us, that's 4.8%. Undergraduate enrollment is down 70 students, or 4.8%, and graduate students dropped 4.5%. We continue on the good news side of things, we continue to monitor fall enrollment trends. And as of the beginning of this month, freshman applications were up 41% over last year at this time, and the same amount, 41% freshmen have confirmed already. So we're very happy about that. Our transfer applications, however, are down 13% compared to last year at this time. And unfortunately, we expect this trend to continue for a while, given that the community college enrollment across the state, actually across the nation, dropped during COVID. True to our access mission, however, diversity at our campus has steadily increased since 2012. First generation student percentages have stayed flat from 2012 to 2020, making up about 40% of our student population. Students of color enrollment is 44% in spring 2021 compared to 42% in spring of 2020. So we do continue to attract a diverse population, and we're very, very excited about that. Next slide, please. We're continuing to with our continued focus on enrollment, we also know that we need to make sure that we are retaining the students that we get more enrollment, and we retain the students that we get. And so we've implemented 4 major initiatives in this regard. We're strengthening our wraparound student support and strategically trying to grow enrollment across academic areas by merging the Office of Student Affairs with the Office of Academic Affairs. Working together, these offices will provide a more holistic approach to customized, direct student support. In fall of 2020, we reestablished an important partnership between CBC and WSU Tricities that we call the Bridges Program. This program encompasses a coordinated bachelor's degree path, providing students a seamless transfer option from Columbia Basin College, that's right down the road from us in Pasco, to WSU Tricities. So CBC students that are participating in this program benefit from our expertise on their campus. We send in advisors to their campus and student services from both campuses, as well as saving on tuition costs. We freeze their tuition once they transfer to WSU Tricities at the first year of transfer. So in practice, students can complete their degree in minimal time and receive all the support they need along the way. We also launched a new program this past fall called the I-82 Advantage, and this was copied from the Portland Advantage. That's not exactly, I think, what it's called, from Vancouver, but it was copied. With this program, though, we can offer in-state tuition rates to students residing in Umatilla County, just across the river in Oregon. So students will now have the chance to save thousands of dollars by qualifying for in-state tuition with just a 30-minute drive to campus. Blue Mountain Community College is also in this county, and we will be extending these programs to all students who attend that institution. In response to students' requests and the changing nature of COVID and following all of the health and safety requirements, including social distancing and mask requirements, we are planning to bring classes with 40 students or less fully in person fully in person learning this fall. For larger classes, we'll again hold those virtually, but we'll be offering alternative and/or supplemental in-person options, such as laboratory experiences or alternating in-person class days and once or twice a week discussion or seminar days. We really believe that students want this, and this will help with our retention and our recruitment efforts. So we'll start this right away, our transition to being more fully on campus. We'll start this right away this spring, and over the summer, we'll slowly ramp up transitioning our faculty and staff to working in person in phases, as well as slowly start to introduce in-person interactive experiences for programs such as orientation and clubs, again, while still maintaining all those important health and safety requirements. Last slide, please. I'd like to close with saying that although the pandemic brought many challenges for our students, faculty, staff, and our campus, we have made so much progress over the past year. My greatest priority for next year is to safely return our students, faculty, and staff to campus in accordance with federal, state, regional, and local guidelines so that we can continue this great path forward. And I'm probably at my time, so I think we can forego. I had a little video of the building, but I think we should probably forego that.
Sandra, I'd like you to show the video.
Oh, all right. Let's show the video. I have no control over the video. I probably, there we go. Thank you so much. It almost makes me weep to see how far we've come with that building. It's going to be just a tremendous asset to the campus. I'm happy to take any questions.
Sandra,
Yes.
super nice presentation. And I'm really happy to hear about the renewed partnership with CBC. It was the community college that got me going in higher education, and I have a lot of respect for that. The question I had is the degree transfers. So those have been targets for a really long time, and that's really encouraging. What degrees are going to be coordinated between the two for the route to bachelor's?
Well, we're actually looking at all of our degrees at this point. We're trying to make coordinated pathways to any degree that matches CBC with WSU Tricities. It's a huge effort and a huge lift, but we really want to make sure that we can serve our students, and I mean the Tri-Cities students, in the best way possible. So we'll be looking at trying to make any degree that matches between the two institutions transferable.
Okay, that's great news. Thank you.
Yes. And we're actually working together with CBC to create some interesting partnerships in some specific areas, especially around energy. So they have a couple of energy specific degrees, AA degrees, that we would like to try to transfer at some point into an energy major on our campus. This is down the road, but we're really focused on energy, and that would be one of the degrees that we would be interested in pursuing, and or creating pathways that create a 2+3 into a master's program.
That's fantastic news. I think partnership with community colleges is the way to go, especially given the circumstance. So thank you.
Thank you.
Sandra, this is Marty. Do you have some insight to why we're seeing our community college enrollment decreasing so much during the pandemic? It seems counterintuitive almost for such a good option for so many students that maybe opted to not do a 4-year. And I was surprised to see like the Spokane Community College's numbers that just recently came out as well, and reflecting the same thing as you're seeing down there.
Yeah. So, it is interesting, and it's counterintuitive because usually enrollment goes counter-cyclical to the economics of the time. So, employment goes down and people go back to school, and we didn't see it this time. But I do believe that part of the issue that's going on is more people had additional responsibilities on their plate. They had to work. They may have had to pick up more work, different jobs. They had family responsibilities or greater family responsibilities, especially around childcare. And I think that particularly for underrepresented students, which we see a larger proportion of underrepresented students in community colleges, they got hit hardest during this pandemic. And so the hunch is that they needed to turn their attention otherwise to other bigger priorities than school, which is a shame, but I think that that's exactly what happened.
Sandra, I have a question.
Regent Ramos?
Yes, first of all, thank you, and just huge compliments to the Energy and Environment Program. And my question really is as we embark on the transition economy and sustainability and carbon reduction, that program has the potential to link not only to the community, but to the business efforts that are required in the economy. And so is there a potential for your program to have a role or a linkage to the business community so that WSU could lead in this massive global effort?
Yes, I'll just say yes. So one of the things that as we're thinking about this institute, WSU has tremendous energy assets. We have a ton of research going on in multiple locations in energy. And part of the reason that we want to create this institute is to bring those together so that WSU can be a leader in helping to develop the policies and the procedures and the not that we won't do research here too, but we really want to be the integrator. We want to be the thought leader in how do we move this forward. Not to bring up a bad topic, but we want to be the people that help avoid what happened in Texas. We want to make sure that the power grid has reliable power. We want to be the system thinkers so that we bring these systems together so that they actually work and work together, because that's how we're going to move forward with a decarbonized future. And so we would like to be accessible to businesses and to governments, et cetera.
That's really inspiring. Thank you.
Other comments?
Yeah, Sandra, it's Enrique Cerna. I'm curious, what are the efforts to reach out and to recruit to the underserved communities? Because I know that you have a growing Latino population there. So what are you doing to try to encourage them to look at WSU there in the Tri-Cities?
So we have people on, well, not really this year, but we have people, I was going to say on the ground. We make many visits to the high schools around the area. We have particular presence in Pasco, where many of the Latinx students are. We've sponsored high schools there. We make sure that we're involved with their events. We make sure that we're at recruiting events, that we put advisors out into the schools. We actually have a presence this year at CBC, which is located in Pasco, so that there's an advisor on campus. I say that loosely because they're on Zoom, but for this year, but they will be more on campus next year to make sure that students who are coming into CBC, who has an equally large Latinx population, but somebody is there to greet them and help them with their pathway from CBC into WSU. And we're doing a lot of outreach actually in Spanish. So our messaging goes out in English and Spanish. And there's one more thing, and I almost forgot it. We're working very closely with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce too. One of the things that we're doing is we're helping them to draft a strategic plan and get some data going. So we have some faculty involved in that, but then we're also working with them for their events and attending their events and making sure that we are a presence with them and assisting in any way that we can.
Yeah. By the way, are you the queen?
Oh no, that's on there. Oh, shoot.
Well, you're taking an audience today. So.
Oh, that's a little embarrassing.
No, that's okay. Good timing. Here we go.
Other comments? Kirk, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. I just want to continue to compliment Sandra on the exceptional job she's doing leading the TriCities campus. You all saw all the things in her presentation, but we look back to when Sandra arrived, we had a bit of a fractured faculty, did not have the positive momentum on campus that we really wanted. And it's just really been fun to watch her and her team in the Tri-Cities just kind of turn things around. The new building has been a nice shot in the arm for facilities for our students. And she went quickly over the $500,000 gift to do an endowed chair in the Tri-Cities, but that would be our first. And the first is always the hardest to get. And I know Sandra and her team are already working on other donors to contribute and hopefully make that larger. And but that's an important first for our campus. I remember we had our first in Vancouver. And I just want to continue to express my appreciation for the positive energy and momentum we have in the Tri-Cities right now, thanks to Sandra.
Thank you.
Dr. Powell.
Okay, I just wanted to add on to what Kirk said from the point of view of as a community member. There has been such a change since Sandra became chancellor. And she talked about the relationship with CBC, but it was severely broken, and it had been broken for years. And in fact, when at the same time, about the same time, CBC and WSU were searching for new leaders. And I had members of the board of CBC come to me and plead that we pick someone who would build a working relationship with Columbia Basin College. It was really totally fractured, and there has been so much community total appreciation of the relationship between our chancellor and the president of CBC. It's just absolutely overwhelming. They appear at all kinds of events together on panels. But more than that, it is really evident that the bridges have been built and they are benefiting our community. I also sit ex officio on the advisory board for CBC, for WSU Tricities. And I can remember times in the past that the meetings were always fractious and people basically weren't attending very well. And I will tell you that it is an engaged group now. They aren't there to just listen to what the chancellor has to tell them. They are invited and encouraged and do engage and share ideas. And it is just, it's like totally different. And so as a community member, as well as a WSU regent, it has just been an extraordinary change, and the future is very exciting.
Thank you, Regent Powell. I was hoping you would weigh in as an advocate of the TriCities campus. And
I just wanted to listen to everybody else first.
you didn't let us down. And I'll also remind everyone that we're not taking action, but we were advised on the Department of Viticulture, which will be another gemstone of the Tri-City campus. So make sure that got mentioned as well. Any other comments? Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Chancellor Haynes. It's always great to hear from you. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. 4 items are on the consent agenda. The approval of minutes, November 13th, 2020 Board of Regents meeting. Approval of minutes, January 22nd of 2021 Board of Regents retreat. In your packets. Establish a Department of Viticulture and Enology, and the discontinuation of the Masters in Public Affairs that were all placed on the consent agenda from committee action yesterday. Would any regent like to remove any of those items from the consent agenda? Seeing no action, I move to approve the consent agenda as reported, and I ask for a second.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? Then I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Consent agenda is approved. Next item would be hearing from our shared governance groups. So from the Foundation Board of Governors, we have Mike Connell. Mike, are you ready?
As
Please.
ready as I'm going to be, Brett. Good morning,
awesome.
Regent Blankenship and the rest of the Regent crew, as well as my colleagues. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Mike Connell, currently serving as the Acting Vice President of Advancement and the Acting CEO of the WSU Foundation while Lisa is on medical leave. I did have a chance to connect with Lisa earlier in the week. She is in good spirits, and it's nice to get a quick check-in from her. I also want to just quickly acknowledge my appreciation for the confidence that President Schultz and Lisa have shown in me and my team during this interim period. For those of you that don't know me or don't know much about development, we tend to actually count things. And so a quick update on the numbers. As of this morning, we've raised $78.4 million in total philanthropic activity since the beginning of the fiscal year in July. Back in September, we had been tweaking, trying to figure out an appropriate goal in a very uncertain time. And so our goal for the year is 125 million. That would suggest we're trending a little bit behind, which I'm a little bit disappointed. At the same time, this is, no one's ever been through this before. And so, as Kirk mentioned earlier, we do have a number of other proposals in the mix. So fundraising is not linear, and we'll continue to strive to hit our goal for this fiscal year. As part of the 78 million, I want to acknowledge maybe some extraordinary effort. Many of you are alums and are accustomed to getting called during the year by our Colacube student callers. One of the things we've had to do, of course, in COVID is try to figure out how to do that. And the folks on the annual giving team literally have set it up so that our student callers are now calling from home. And the ability to keep that process up and running has allowed us to connect with more than 100,000 households over the course of these 9+ months, or almost 9 months of the fiscal year. So I just wanted to point out the success they've had. I want to pivot to a couple of things that are not quantitative, but have been important this year, where we've made some important progress. In any environment development, one of the key factors to success is the team you have in place. And I want to acknowledge the work of Don Shear as part of the advancement team, but also the provost, the chancellors, the deans. We spent a lot of time this year kind of revamping our staffing and structure regarding titles and compensation so that we are able to attract and retain the best development professionals possible. One could argue that's probably more important now than ever as we kind of navigate the COVID environment, making sure that we have the best people we can who are connecting with our donors and prospective donors. So the first phase of that project is done. We'll transition in the second phase now, but we couldn't have done it without the cooperation of everybody across, not just the Pullman campus, but across all the campuses. Earlier this morning and even yesterday, you heard about a number of recent gifts of significance to WSU, for which we are extremely grateful. Maybe just a couple quick observations. I think as you hear about them from a chancellor on a different campus, or a dean on the Pullman campus, or President Schultz, what I hope that reflects to you is the coordination and teamwork that goes into these gifts. It may also reflect that we didn't do a great job of coordinating our talking points, because most of those things were my talking points as well. So I'll skip past some of that, but I want to make sure that it's really clear that it takes teamwork to do these sorts of things well. And the fact that the deans and chancellors and President Schultz are able to comment on those is not reflective of a talking point. It's that they are involved in this process and know these donors and these people. So whether it's the Taylors or the Christensens or the folks at Northwest Farm Credit Services, we are extremely appreciative of that. I also want to highlight another gift we announced in the last month from Mark Piggott and the folks at PACCAR, to name the PACCAR Lecture Hall, which is in the Spark building here on the Pullman campus. That's the premier learning environment, I think, on the Pullman campus. And PACCAR's generosity is something that will allow us to keep it on the forefront of technology in learning moving forward. Mark is not a WSU graduate, and President Schultz has done an awesome job getting to know Mark and understanding the areas of interest that he has at WSU. And then a whole bunch of people behind the scenes have helped us maintain the ongoing conversations with Mark and PACCAR. And we hope to continue those journeys moving forward in terms of some of the other priorities we have throughout the WSU system.
Can I interject, Mike?
Absolutely.
For those that have not met Mr. Piggott, we did confer an honorary doctorate on his behalf. I guess it was a year ago, December.
Right.
And I had the honor of being on stage with him at that time. So that was a wonderful event.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So he is a graduate.
Very good point. My apologies. He is a graduate. I also want to just quickly weigh in. I know the conversation yesterday in the Institutional Infrastructure Committee caught my ear. A couple of things just to weigh in real quickly on that. First and foremost, President Schultz has been very consistent, really since he got here, that this is an area where we need to modify how we do things. As was mentioned yesterday, WSU does not have a track record of philanthropic support being part of the capital process. We've had some wonderful gifts from some incredibly generous people in support of capital, but it's simply not how we're built or structured. We will pivot, and this is a paradigm shift for all of WSU and certainly for the development professionals. But the message has been clear moving forward that philanthropy will be part of the capital process, and our team will get accustomed to talking to people about supporting facilities projects. There are clearly what Pat Chun and his team have done in athletics for a number of years is maybe the exception to that. But for the rest of us, we will do more of it and do it well. And I also want to acknowledge Kirk and Noel's commitment to the WSU Tricities Campus, which is a facilities gift. So once again, Kirk is leading by example. And I know Mel mentioned that we're meeting later today to talk about the life sciences building on the Vancouver campus. But we've also had recent conversations with Dean Rizak over in engineering. And I'm on the calendar, I think, with Dean Butler to talk about what's going to happen in arts and sciences downstream. Kirk is engaged along with the development team with Chancellor DeWalt, Vice President DeWalt, on some of the things he's got in mind for the Spokane campus. So this is where we are headed, but it is not necessarily where we've been. So I just wanted to weigh in on that, and I'm happy to address additional questions on that as I wrap up. I do want to spend a minute looking forward as we look at fiscal year 22. That's going to be a little bit of a slog. Fundraising is about relationships. Usually it's, gifts are part of a journey. This year has been a little more challenging to have traction with new relationships. I'm really proud of the team and what we've done this year in terms of closing gifts where we'd already started conversations. But next year will reflect the fact that it's a little harder this year to begin new relationships. So I don't know exactly where we'll end up in fiscal 22, but I do think it will be a challenging year in that sense. The other, as we, again, looking forward, most of you are aware we're in the silent phase of our third comprehensive campaign. We are moving forward with that. Our board of directors did meet a couple of weeks ago. We will continue to assess the timing and some of the other elements of it, but yes, we are going to do this campaign. To that end, really appreciate President Schultz leaning in. Lisa and Kirk and I spent some time identifying some individuals that might help us on some of the planning elements of that campaign. So we have recruited 5 individuals. We've got appointments with 3 more. Ultimately, this group will probably be 8 to 10, maybe a little more. But we look forward to their help in helping us review the case for support, the timeline, as I mentioned, some of the areas of focus, help us with probably some of the lead gifts, both identifying the prospects and even sometimes helping us refine the process. So really appreciative again of Kirk. And I mean, he has literally just opened the calendar up and said, let's get this recruitment done. And our objective is to have every one of those calls either scheduled or done by the end of the month. So that's been a very aggressive timeline, and it's going fantastic. When we think about a campaign, and I know you have varying familiarities with not just WSU campaigns, but campaigns across other organizations, ultimately a campaign is the intersection of the vision of university leadership, whether that's a dean, a department chair, where they can go with private support. So the intersection of that vision and the passion of our donors. And that is the project that we will head into next, starting this summer and even into the fall, having those conversations with institutional leadership about where they want to go and where philanthropy fits in that. So on the outside, we're recruiting volunteers. On the inside, we'll transition to the visioning to start to understand where we will be seeking the private support that ultimately makes up that campaign. If I had any closing comment, I think you probably heard this from a lot of people in the last couple of days. I just want to acknowledge the work of our team. It has been a crazy year. If you think about just something that sounds as simple as processing gifts, that means people are going into the office and socially distancing and wearing masks, but opening your checks and processing those checks so they get into the system and the receipt and the acknowledgments that get out in the mail. Development officers trying to figure out can you really have a conversation with a donor staring at the camera? And the answer to that, it turns out, is yes. It's different. And sometimes you're literally training the other person on how to do Zoom while you're talking to them about a gift. And so I'm exceptionally proud of the team of people I work with. I look forward to Lisa being back, and I'll take any questions anybody has about the advancement enterprise and the philanthropic experience.
Any questions for Mike?
Mike, this is Marty Dickinson, and thank you very much for just stepping up in not only a pandemic, but with some of the other challenges that the team is facing right now. So I'm encouraged to hear, one of the things we talked a little bit about is this culture of, we have Cougar alumni that are really nice and they're a really fun bunch, but there is a level of maturity around their giving that we have not really turned that corner with them around how do we help our alumni understand the value of giving, and not necessarily just athletics, but also to the very academic side of things, in which, you know, have afforded them the opportunities to even be thinking about a gift. So I would just like to say, you know, on behalf of the Regents and for myself, I see it as a responsibility that we help you figure out how to shift the culture, shift the messaging. There's a brand messaging play here that I think we could probably do a better job of being a little more overt and a little more intentional around, we need our alumni. Now is the time, and we need you to lean in and support us. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think there's a way from a marketing perspective we could do a better job of that. So I am willing to help on that front. I'm also willing to help, and I know there's others here too, use us as a tool if it's necessary and if it can be helpful in these meetings that you're having and these relationships you're trying to cultivate.
No, I appreciate that, Regent Dickinson. I appreciate your personal support that comes out of your household. That we're grateful for that. I also appreciate the early spade work you did up in Spokane around the College of Medicine. What you and Tom and Spokane did had, I mean, I'm not sure we'd have a College of Medicine without that effort. As it relates to the culture, I think you've hit on a really important part. I mean, WSU is famous for its loyalty, and I'm with you. I'd like to just slightly tweak that so we become more famous for our philanthropy. One of the things that I referenced the campaign organizing committee, and as we built that out, one of the things that we kicked around internally is, okay, in addition to asking for their time, probably 18 to 24 months, you know, a meeting every couple months, at this point, does it make sense to ask them to make a commitment to this campaign? And the answer was yes. And so everybody that has said yes so far has made a significant commitment that they will support this campaign. Of course, they get to decide where those dollars go. WSU is very much a donor-driven culture. Kirk has led with that even before he got here. We had a conversation before he was even on the payroll that this is about the donor's passion. So ultimately, Marty, I think it's on all of us to expand the exposure and awareness of people of what we're doing at WSU so they get excited about those things, whether it be something on the Spokane campus or a facility project in Vancouver or whatever it may be. But we definitely have room to grow in that space. I had a fantastic conversation with Dean Lead in pharmacy this week, and without sounding critical of his predecessors, there is opportunity there because the deans of the College of Pharmacy haven't been exceptionally proactive in the development space. And I get the sense that's going to change with Dean Lead. And that's a good thing, that when people are going to see Mark coming, they understand that part of the conversations will be around philanthropy. And each of us in leadership positions at WSU have that opportunity. You know, it's not just about getting together and having a conversation. It's about how can your philanthropic support help advance WSU consistent with what we're trying to accomplish and what our vision is. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Regent Redmond, please.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for this presentation, very clear and actionable, and appreciate you leaping in for Lisa too. So just along the same line, I have felt like I have not had enough information to be maximally effective in the way that you and Marty are talking about. And I know a lot of us talk to a lot of people and a lot of institutions as part of our normal day-to-day work that could be in a position to be major contributors to WSU's mission. And it's all about knowing about a specific initiative that is highly fundable when you happen to run across someone who would be super interested in that initiative, which can happen any time of the day or night, right? Exactly. So figuring out a way to give us like sort of digestible, kind of paragraph long cool stuff that we can forward or use as a talking point or whatever, I think would be so important, because I probably have in the course of a week, maybe 5 conversations that could intersect with WSU, and would love to be part of the spreading of the word and the laying of the groundwork for you all.
Well, and I appreciate that. And I do think that is an outcome of the visioning process. The idea of here's what we're doing right now, here's where we can go, here's where philanthropy can help us get there. And then it's on us, but really it's across all of the campuses so that the deans have that information. So we can say, okay, what's going on in arts and sciences, Todd? Are we doing stuff around cancer research? And he can say, here's 3 I just want to highlight, but it's not just these 3. And you can pivot to the next conversation, and it's all about what's happening in engineering, where we're looking at facility expansion, and here's what we're going to try to do in those labs and what the faculty members and their teams are trying to accomplish in those labs.
Yeah, and a lot of it is also about being able to talk about where we're number 1, right? And so, having those, couple of talking points. I mean, I use the USDA thing all the time because I talk to a lot of people about ag tech, right? Yeah. So, just having those couple of talking points, and it can't be the catalog of everything that every dean is excited about. It has to be, sort of a rolling, scrolling kind of 5 things that, are top of mind this week that we think are sort of the sexiest, most fundable things. Yeah. And then we'll just start incorporating those in our conversation. And I think that kind of thing can really lead to some wonderful possibilities.
Oh yeah, Kirk and I had a chance to hear a presentation earlier in the week from somebody, and fundamentally the research had to do with human health, but the research is being done on the grizzly bears. And the presenter went out of their way to say, we're the only place in the world that you can do this. And that's what I think that's what you're seeking, Regent Redmond, is to say, in this case, this is not only we're doing it, we're doing well, we're the only ones in the world that are doing this. And what you're asking for is, Mike, I need 3 of those all the way across the board. Where are we great? Where are we trying to be great? Where are we just a philanthropic dollar, maybe $1 million from being great? Yeah.
Any other comments? And if not, thank you, Mike, for taking on the expanded role and for your passion. And I don't think we'll skip a beat. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Next on the agenda would be, if Dave Turnbull is ready, we'll hear from the Faculty Senate Chair. There he is. Take it away, Professor Turnbull.
Thank you, Chair Blankenship and members of the Board of Regents. Good morning. I'd like to start by thanking you, Chip, for asking me to have lunch with you a few weeks ago. I thought that, hour-long conversation we had was really terrific, and I certainly appreciated it. Thank you. The Faculty Senate would also like to thank President Kirk Schultz and Provost and Executive Vice President Elizabeth Chilton for their continued support of shared governance here at Washington State University. We now have faculty representation on the Board of Regents, the Executive Budget Council, and the System Council. And we feel very good about partnering with them as we discuss the organizational restructuring of the WSU system, currently referred to as One WSU. As you know, the Faculty Senate spawned an ad hoc committee to study the proposal that $2 to $3 million be diverted from unallocated university funds to defray the cost of Pac-12 dues. This committee formalized a statement to the Board of Regents concerning that proposal, and the Senate voted to send the statement to the Board of Regents as a recommendation. It should, however, be noted that the Senate's vote was not unanimous. Now, President Kirk Schultz recently sent me a letter thanking the Senate for its careful and thoughtful deliberations surrounding intercollegiate athletics. He went on to state that there will be times when the faculty and administration disagree. He also made it clear that he has to balance many competing perspectives on controversial topics such as this, and feels that it's too early to withdraw the proposal, one that may very well be necessary next year. And finally, in my brief report, I think you should know that our Faculty Affairs Committee, led by Steve Hines, is working on a possible revision to the faculty manual that would allow for faculty furloughs and or temporary salary reductions in times of budgetary crises. The goal is to provide an option by which crisis precipitated budgetary burdens might be more equitably and justly shared by all Washington State University faculty. And that ends my report. I'm more than happy to take on any questions.
Any feedback or questions from the board?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Kirk.
I know Dave mentioned this at the very end. It's almost a passing comment, but this last year when the university was looking at such a significant budget reduction from the state, one of the challenges would be if somebody decided to do a furlough, you could only do it for certain groups at the university. Vice presidents and deans contracts, for example, didn't allow me as president to be able to go in and do a reduction. It had to be a voluntary one. We also had similar issues with the faculty. So I appreciate faculty governance working together to come up with even a proposal on how that could work under some pretty trying conditions that stop short of the old declare financial exigency, and that allows you to sort of do it. So to me, it's like the nuclear option. You hope that you never have to look up the codes and turn the key, but I really do appreciate our faculty working together on providing this as an option. Hopefully I'll never need it as a president. It'll be somewhere down the road. Hopefully never need it, but at least it would be a possibility in the future. And that's taken a lot of leadership. And when you're having an argument with the administration on one thing, it's kind of hard sometimes to say, well, let's really set that aside and look at these other things. And I appreciate Dave's steady leadership in working this through. So thank you.
Well, thank you, President Cook. And I think it goes a long way to show the kind of character of the faculty that you have here at Washington State University.
So before, someone else have a question?
Yeah, sorry, quick question.
Sure.
I'm modifying my old standard question a little bit. So, I always ask everybody how they're doing on a COVID adjusted basis, but I'm particularly interested in how the faculty is doing on a COVID adjusted basis, but also if you were to characterize the faculty administration relationship, is it, again, on a COVID adjusted basis, because I know everybody's under a lot of additional stress right now. And so you have to kind of figure everybody's looking for somebody to be mad at. But could you characterize whether the relationship is stable, getting worse, getting better, and just give us your views on those two things?
Well, I think the first thing I'd like to say in response to that question is that I feel like President Kirk Schultz is underappreciated here at Washington State University. I think this institution should be extremely thankful that he came along when he did. I think the work that he and Stacy Pearson did was, kind of short of a miracle a little bit. When they got the financial keel of this institution back into the water, I think both of them should be nominated for sainthood. I'd hate to think where we would be as an institution if those two hadn't come along when this pandemic hit. Having said that, I think the pandemic does kind of exacerbate the stress and the sometimes tense relationships that can occur between a faculty and administration. And personally, I try to stay as neutral as I can and act more like a conduit to try to help smooth out that relationship as much as possible. And I know that the faculty is upset about the athletic budget situation, and I think that's certainly understandable. But I think Kirk Schultz and Stacy Pearson have a dilemma that they're faced with, kind of a Kobayashi Maru, if you will. And my personal opinion is that they're doing the best job that they can, and that we as an institution really want to try to get this thing under control. And I think we just need to kind of all take a deep breath, relax a little bit, because my sense is this is all going to work out. The faculty here at Washington State University is incredibly resilient, and what I've witnessed over the last year has just been outstanding. I'm really proud of the faculty here, and it's a real honor to represent them. I think if there's one thing, though, that I'd like to bring out moving on is that the faculty is really worried about vaccinations moving on into the fall semester. And so I think I really need to speak that clearly to the members of the Board of Regents. So Heather, I don't know if that answers your question, but it was a good try on my part, I think.
Yeah, I think you cleverly dodged it a little bit, but you gave us a lot of great data there. We're now got to worry about Kirk and Stacy feeling like saints, but we'll take them too, I'm sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heather. Any other questions?
Well, if they're that good, they can carry the vaccination all the way through Pullman.
I would, if you don't mind, I think the vaccination issue that Dave raises is certainly a major issue with our faculty and staff, and particularly when they look at adjoining states and see this as a priority for the state. And so Elizabeth and I are doing a town hall State of the University address in about 10 days. We're going to try and address this as much as we can. So I think people look and see other university administrations pushing this, and we're abiding by state rules and regulations, but it leads to some frustration. And I they call a faculty colleague at University of Southern California who goes, "Hey, I got vaccinated last week, and it doesn't look like we're happening here." So Dave, just acknowledging that we need to keep working on it. So
thank you.
So just as a closing comment for the other board members, as we were leaving the retreat several months ago, I called Professor Turnbull to say, "Hey, you have time for lunch? Why don't we just get together?" Because I thought some of the nature of our discussions might be COVID related, so to speak, where it seems like the regents are hidden behind a firewall. And I just wanted to be available to have a good conversation over lunch, and he was gracious enough to agree to that. And we enjoyed that time together. So that's what he was referring to at the opening of his remarks.
Well, it was a pretty easy conversation to have between two musicians.
Yeah, it got pretty esoteric really fast.
Shocker.
Yeah. So thank you for the fine report, and thank you to St. Stacy and St. Kirk.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye. Keeping with the TriCities Campus theme, we're going to hear from a few students. WSU Tricities President Robin Kovas and Vice President Stephanie Warner, if they are connected. I see Robin.
Yes, Chairman Blankenship, thank you. And thank you to the ladies and gentlemen of the WSU Board of Regents for your time today. Unfortunately, my Vice President cannot be here. She's a STEM major, so her academic path is a lot harder than mine, and she needs to attend a class right now. My name is Robin Kovas, though. I'm the ASWSU TC President. I'm a senior studying history here at WSU Tricities, and I'll be attending law school this fall after I graduate. Today, I wanted to briefly highlight some of the organization's work and our impact that is also included in my written report that I submitted to the board. First, this summer, ASWSU TC was able to purchase 20 brand new laptops with our FY20 budget surplus. And we also received 30 donated laptops from community partner Cadwell. And this allowed us to work in conjunction with Student Support Services and the Office of IT to create a Tri-Cities exclusive laptop rental program. We recognized as soon as we shifted to the virtual learning environment that students' technological needs were going to increase, and we wanted to make sure that students had equitable access to that technology. We also worked with these offices to work with other community partners to create different spaces around the Tri-Cities and at the Prosser Research Extension Center to give students access to reliable Wi-Fi and a quiet study space. And I think as we continue to see higher education shifting more and more to some sort of online components, whether that's class or submitting your assignments, things like that, we're going to continue to see students need these continuously modernized and updated technological resources. So we're happy to be able to help on that effort. Next is the Student Engagement Hub. So this year was our first ever Student Engagement Hub. We had what I called the perfect storm of legislative events this year. We had the census, a presidential election, and the annual Coug Day at the Capitol, all within one academic year. But this year we did the first ever Student Engagement Hub pursuant to RCW 29A.40.180. And what this did is allowed for us to open a nonpartisan election services and information center in conjunction with the Benton County Auditor's Office. We operated this hub from October 29th through November 3rd, and we served a total of 41 eligible voters this year, which included 16 replacement ballots, 13 new voter registrations, 9 updates to the voter registration, and 3 individuals were just general information questions. So I was very happy with the numbers we had, especially with COVID and everything that we have going on right now. And I'm very confident that as we continue to have the Student Engagement Hub on campus in years to come when we're in person, we'll be able to continually serve more and more students and encourage that maximum participation in the democratic process. Staying on the topic of the legislative items, we did have our annual Coug Day at the Capitol this year on Monday, February 1st. Myself and my other student government leaders from across the WSU system, this year we thought that it would be best to try and arrange groups based on geographical representation. So that is why we as Tri-Cities students had our own group, and we met with legislators from the 8th and the 16th legislative districts. And in these meetings, what we were primarily advocating for was maximum state funding towards higher education. At the time and in the months previous, we were looking at some pretty dramatic budget shortfalls from the state of Washington due to a loss in tax revenue. So that was our primary push. However, I'm very optimistic based on some recently published tax revenue data showing actual growth in collection compared to 2019. Therefore, we're continuing to advocate for maximum higher education funding through the Student Government Council and the Washington Student Association. Additionally, we advocated for a graduate/professional student seat on the Washington Student Achievement Council. And all of our efforts this year were very well received by legislators. I'm very happy with the conversations we had, and I'm very hopeful that we're going to continue to see continued higher education funding from the state in the future. Like I believe Regent Ramos had mentioned earlier, we're in an economic transformation where we're seeing a shift towards the necessity towards a more highly educated population. And I think that a lot of that and continuing to expand access to that is going to rely on the state and funding for that. Some of our current projects that my team and I are working on include advocating for the modernization of laboratory spaces, increasing mental health resources and effectively communicating those resources to the students, campus security and safety improvements for when we do return to in-person classes, advocating for long-term environmentally sustainable practices on our campus and across the system, improvements to the student advising experience based upon data collection initiatives, improving Title IX accommodations. Particularly, we want to expand lactation spaces, especially being a non-traditional campus. There's certainly a need for that at the TriCities campus. And finally, long-term food equity and sustainability for all students. Many of these are projects that are multi-year. We have been working on them in the past. Some of them are continual that we're going to continue to advocate for every single year. So I'm really thankful for the work that my team has put in thus far. And, you know, like President Schultz had mentioned, we are keeping some of the good things from virtual learning, the pandemic, things like that. We're going to continue to use Zoom to create accessible spaces for our meetings and important events that are going on. Microsoft Teams has been an excellent communication tool for us as well. And then also having consistent cloud-based storage practices has been excellent to ensure that we don't lose any information year to year or even semester to semester. Finally, I would like to take a brief look ahead. As I'm sure all of you are, we the students are very much looking forward to in-person classes and events. Currently, we're in the process of conducting our 2020 general election. So starting in April, we'll begin the transitionary period for a new president, vice president, and senators in ASWSUTC. Candidates have already filed to run. Our active campaigning begins on Monday, and then voting will take place between March 29th and April 2nd. And we'll begin onboarding Monday, April 5th. Next year will be the 4th year of our organization's guiding 5-year plan, which means the new administration will need to start thinking about a new 5-year plan and kind of how they want to update and modify that. To assist in that effort, my team and I will be delivering recommendations to the new administration during that month-long onboarding process. And additionally, we're going to continue to stress the use of things like Zoom, Teams, and cloud-based storage as just a standard operating procedure moving forward. Once again, thank you for your time, and I will take any questions.
Hey, Robin, before you get questions, describe a little bit of your journey to WSU Tricities as an individual. You've got some unique experiences that the Regents may not be aware of.
Absolutely. So I'm a native of Eastern Washington. I graduated from Chihuahua High School in 2011. And after graduating high school, I served in the Marine Corps as a scout sniper from 2011 to 2017. There I was fortunate to do 3 deployments to the Middle East and 1 advisory deployment to the Republic of Georgia. And then after leaving the Marine Corps with my honorable discharge, I began my higher education journey at CBC. I did 1 year there, and then I transferred to WSU Tricities. And like I said, I'll be graduating this fall, this spring, and then attending law school this fall.
Sandy.
Virtual class.
Thank you.
Did you enjoy the Republic of Georgia? Did you enjoy the Republic of Georgia?
Oh, absolutely. It was an amazing experience to be able to see a whole new world, people, culture. I was very fond of my time in Georgia. Yes.
Did you move over? How far east did you go in the Republic of Georgia, or north? I'm just curious.
We didn't go too far north. We weren't close to the contested areas or anything like that. We had a small base near the capital, Tbilisi, Georgia, which is where we spent most of the time. And then we also were able to do a weekend beach trip to Batumi, which is a very beautiful resort town on the Black Sea.
Yeah, I've been sent there several times. It's a beautiful place. I was just curious about what your take on it was.
Yes, it's an amazing place, and the food is excellent as well.
So
Any other? Sorry, Ron. Any other questions for Robin?
I have a question for Robin. I'm just curious, what are you hearing from students about, from a mental health aspect, the impact that everything we've been dealing with the past year?
Well, this year has certainly been a struggle for students, as I'm sure it has for everyone else. Part of that has had to do with the rapid shift to virtual learning that we experienced a year ago. Some of that has had to deal with some economic hardships that students have faced, including parents losing jobs, them losing jobs or reduced hours. So mental health has been kind of at the forefront of everyone's mind this year. And I think that's why we put such a focus on increasing the resources that we offer on campus and also the communications so that students know about it. And I think, this is very important. as part of a larger, broader kind of societal conversation to destigmatize mental health issues and getting mental health help.
Thank you, and thank you for your service. It's pretty tremendous, your background.
Thank you very much.
Where are you going to go to law school? Do you know yet?
I do not know yet. I still have a couple outstanding applications. I have a few acceptances and I have a few waitlist spots that I'm very excited about. So we're going to see how it all shakes out, and I should know probably right before I graduate.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Laura, did you have another comment?
Yes. What an amazing background you have, and thank you for both your service, but also for taking the time and effort to be the president of the local student association. That's very much appreciated. A couple of things. First of all, I just really applaud what you all did, both using your own budget and in integrating the laptops from Cadwell to provide virtual learning experiences for some of the students that might have difficulty accessing them otherwise. That's really an outstanding thing to do. As you were talking about your legislative activities, one of the things that sort of struck me, because we had just been listening to Chancellor Haynes talking about how Umatilla County will be offered Washington State in-state tuition. And while it's a new program and probably hasn't had a chance to have an impact yet, there's a likelihood that we'll get more and more Oregon State students in the Tri-Cities, at the Tri-Cities campus. And I was just wondering if you all have had any discussions about how you might integrate some of those students who are coming over the border to Tri-Cities. And particularly, I think they could benefit from having you all share what you've learned by dealing with the legislature and their local representatives as they move forward in becoming students at WSU.
Absolutely. That is something that we've certainly put some thought into. And we already do have quite a few students who make that pretty long commute from the eastern part of Oregon to our campus. So we already have some of those students that are part of our student body. And in terms of relationships with the state legislators, with the state legislator, yes, we really try to convey the importance of legislative advocacy, regardless of what state you come from. Every single student on our campus is a Coug, and we get our funding from Washington State. So I think it's important to include them in that, but also show them pathways and opportunities to lobby their own home state legislature if they have any kind of pressing issues that they really want to advance.
Okay, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Regent Jeanette.
First of all, Robin, Semper Fi, thank you for all of your service. I guess my question as a soon-to-be fresh graduate, how do you imagine continuing the relationship with Washington State University, and what would motivate you to be an active alum? Just that bridge that you're contemplating.
Thank you. Well, first of all, Semper Fi. I think something that's going to motivate me to be an active alum is something that the WSU Alumni Association is already doing. I know that they have a really broad reach. They have many different chapters and events and programs that happen across the country and across the world as well. So I think that right there is already an excellent step for engaging alumni, and it's something I certainly plan to participate in as I move forward. No matter where I go, I know there will always be some Cougs that are close by.
Well, all the best. We're here for you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments while Robin is with us?
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your service. Stay in touch. We'd love to hear about the law school adventure.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next we have on the agenda, we have Administrative Professional Advisory Council report. If Anna McLeod is ready.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Chair Blankenship and the Board of Regents. I'm happy to report on APAC's work. We are very excited to be offering a great Staff Appreciation Week, actually next week or 2 weeks away. Our staff, AP staff specifically, have been working tirelessly through the COVID remote work. The workday launch was a heavy lift for a lot of AP staff and supporting WSU students and faculty. So we're excited to celebrate staff with a great week of events that will be engaging and fun, as well as some prizes and discounts from WSU businesses. We are happy to continue to have increased engagement in meetings. As many have mentioned, there is some silver lining with COVID, and APAC is definitely seeing that with our engagement of APs across the system. We are getting more engagement in meetings than we've ever had. As chair, I'm getting more engagement with comments and feedback and just reach outs from APs across the system. So moving forward, we're going to continue to offer and encourage our APs to join our meetings via Zoom and all of our events that way as well. We are actively collecting comments and questions about the WSU white papers and the new system recommendations. And we are so thankful to have just had a really great conversation with President Schultz and Provost Chilton about some of those concerns that staff are having about the One WSU and what that means for staff. We're also working on our strategic plan as APAC because ours is very out of date. And we're looking at how APAC can be supportive and useful in this new system or in the One WSU system proposal, and how we can best advocate for APs and engage in APs moving forward. We are very sad to say that Gail Anderson, who has been our administrative support to APAC and Faculty Senate, she is retiring at the end of the month. We have hired a new replacement for her, but we will be very sad to see her go. And we will be having a retirement celebration via Zoom on March 31st for her. So shout out to Gail and all of the work and support that she has given to me and APAC throughout the year. And with that, that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Anna? Thank you, Anna. Thank you for the fine report. The last shared governance group to report would be the Alumni Association. And if President Doug Wilcox is with us, and Tim Pavish.
Good morning. Tim Pavish and I are here this morning at the Lewis Alumni Center, so that's why we're in our big room here and look a little distant. But anyway, again, I'm Doug Wilcox, and as president of the Alumni Association Board of Directors, I want to report on 4 recent events and areas of activity of the association that demonstrates the innovative and energetic work of the association's team during the recent period. The first one would be on March 5th, the Alumni Association virtually hosted an inaugural Women's Leadership Summit. WSU First Lady Dr. Noelle Schultz was the keynote speaker, joined by inspiring WSU alumni panelists, Regent and former Senior Vice President of Boeing, Jeanette Ramos, KOMO4 anchor Kelly Koopmans, and CEO for Washington STEM, Angela Jones. The event was moderated by Jane Young, past president of the Alumni Association, and hosted by Shelley Spangler, Alumni Association president-elect. The summit was designed to provide Cougs at all career levels an opportunity to celebrate successes and learn from past experiences of WSU faculty and alumni. This year's summit explored professional challenges for women during COVID-19. Each of the panelists shared how they embraced change during these dynamic times. Attendees had the opportunity to participate in a question and answer session with Dr. Schultz and the other panelists. Almost 300 screens and approximately 400 viewers participated in the event, pretty substantial numbers. And so it is also available on the Alumni Association archives for on-demand viewing. So it was a very successful event. Next, Goose Ridge has been selected to produce the Cougar 8, the next edition of the Cougar Collectors Series wine. The Alumni Association's Wine by Cougars Wine Club is thrilled to announce that Cougar-owned Goose Ridge Estate Vineyard and Winery will produce the next wine in the Cougar Collectors Series, Cougar 8. The 8th edition of the Cougar Collectors Series will be available through the Wine by Cougars Wine Club, the Goose Ridge Winery, and numerous retailers across the state starting in August of this year. The wine comes on the heels of Cougar 7, produced by Reininger, which sold its 1,000 Cougar 7 cases in record time. Nearly 700 alumni and friends at WSU are Wine by Cougars members, the most innovative alumni wine club in the nation. Cougar Collectors Series and Wine by Cougars helped the WSU Alumni Association highlight the important impact WSU and its alumni make on the wine industry in our state. Wine by Cougars has endowed 2 scholarships to support WSU students pursuing degrees in viticulture and enology, and also wine and beverage business management. Next, a sampling of additional events and activities the Alumni Association has been pursuing. First, the Alumni Association has been working hard to coordinate a collection of online programming to help Cougs engage, learn, connect, and grow virtually. Next, just this fiscal year, the Alumni Association has hosted 244 online Coug connecting events. Also, virtual events directly supported 20 Cougar connected businesses. And Well-Read Cougs, the Alumni Association's virtual book club, brought together 765 Cougs, many of whom were connecting with WSU for the very first time as alumni. And then the Feast at Home, the first of its kind virtual food, wine, fun experience, was initially planned to run only in the fall, but demand was so high, the run was extended into 2021. Over 550 Cougs have attended the Feast at Home events. Many loved it so much they came to more than one and invited friends as well. Of course, this was an attempt to fill the void which the pandemic created for us to not be able to host our past years of success with the feast in person here on campus. Next, 10 Cougs Care community service events help children and families in need and homeless pets even. And finally, the Cougar Learning Consortium offers a diverse portfolio of online content for Cougs, both live and on demand. Nearly 1,500 alumni, parents, friends, faculty, and staff have benefited from this free program. Not surprisingly, the most popular Cougar Learning Consortium program has been Digital Flourishing, Strategies for Fostering Wellness in an Era of Remote Work. Finally, our WSU Alumni Association Alumni Interest Survey. As a next step in the Alumni Association Impact Study of a year ago, we recently launched an alumni interest survey in mid-February, going out to 214,921 alumni and friends. Our goal is to enhance what we are already successfully doing and expand additional and innovative ways for the Alumni Association to engage alumni with WSU and inspire them to want to do more for WSU. We already have 5,000 responses from the alumni and friends. We look forward to analyzing the feedback and gleaning the most insight from it The results will help inform our ongoing strategic planning efforts, which will lead us into and through WSU's capital campaign. In closing and speaking for the Alumni Association Board of Directors, we are extremely proud of the innovative, energetic, and expansive work of our team under Tim Pavish's leadership that have put forth over this past year during the pandemic having squelched virtually all of our Alumni Association's customary in-person alumni engagement activities. However, we now anticipate the broad success of our team our team has had delving into the virtual world this past year sets the Alumni Association up going forward for much greater and broader than ever opportunities for WSU alumni engagement. So that concludes my report, and Tim and I would be glad to hear any of your comments or questions.
Any comments or questions for Doug or Tim?
Well, I just like, sorry, President.
Yeah,
Blankenship.
all right.
I would just like to compliment the Alumni Association for all of the tremendous effort to maintain community and connections. The timing of the Women's Summit in particular was connected to the International Women's Day. And so First Lady Schultz was a tremendous keynote speaker. And I think that the digital environment still provided interaction. And I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to have represented this team.
Well, you're welcome.
Any other comments or questions? Arlie, please.
I'd like to just say I commend you both for all the work that you guys have done. I can say that I've already been reached out by the Alumni Association as I will be graduating in May. So please keep up the great work. I hope to be an active member of the Hawaii chapter and possibly work with you guys in the future. So thank you for all your guys' work.
That'll be great. Glad to have you.
You do have his address, right?
We do.
Any other comments? Well, thank you both for the great report, and thank you for your creativity in keeping our alumni base engaged. Talk to you next time. Well, next on the agenda will be committee reports. I'd like to take a 10-minute break and we can come back and charge through the committee reports. So we'll be back at 10, well, let's just call it 11 o'clock. I can't do the math. Pardon?
Are we muted now? Noon for lunch. I'm looking forward to May and coming to Spokane.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We will call the Board of Regents meeting back to order and accomplish our committee meeting reports. And I'll try to gain back on schedule. So if I seem in a hurry, it will be to stay on schedule. So first, the Research and Academic Affairs Committee, chaired by Regent Schauer. Lisa.
Thank you, Chairman. We had a really good meeting yesterday, and while there's a lot of different information that I can share with everyone, I thought that I would mention the presentation by Dr. Mary Sanchez Lanier. She highlighted the undergraduate research and really the high impact learning opportunities that research has. And it isn't just graduate focused. We also have a pretty significant effort around undergraduate research. And so this was not only interesting, but also helped us to have a conversation around what some of the challenges are with ensuring inclusivity of this research opportunity for our undergrads, which leads to a lot of the other comments that have already occurred today in terms of engaging with our alumni and continuing philanthropy efforts, reducing barriers to undergrads' ability to participate in this high impact learning include, replacing income and reducing debt so that they have the ability to participate, especially as we think about first generation and students of color. So it was really a great conversation. I appreciate Provost Chilton's leadership in terms of her emphasis on continuing to find ways to link high impact learning opportunities. It is really the work we do. It's our core mission, and it's really something that's being done so well. So I applaud the efforts, and in particular appreciated our faculty representative, Dr. Crouch's perspective on how this is going and opportunities for us to continue to cultivate this kind of research. I wanted to mention there's an opportunity for all of us to be able to watch this showcase for undergraduate research and creative activities virtually. That'll be occurring March 29th from 3 to 4:15. And I'm sure that we can provide the link so that everyone can take a look. I know from my experience, I have been able to attend the WSU Vancouver Research Showcase. It's really one of the best opportunities to see the work that's being done by our students. And I encourage everyone to find the time to take a look on March 29th at 3 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Any comments or questions on the report? Thank you. Next report from Regent Sims, Student Affairs and Student Life Committee. Regent Ron.
We had a great meeting yesterday, and the report dealt with how how Washington State University faculty, staff, and administration were dealing with the COVID virus on campus. And it was so comprehensive that I asked that they actually put it in writing. And the reason why is that a number of us are trying to deal with other groups and cities that are going through the crisis. Nobody is doing it as completely and as thoroughly as Washington State University. I was pretty taken back by that. I said, wow, this is exportable. And so if they can just wait and say, this is all that we're doing and all that we're covering, and put it on WSU Stationery, I'm going to circulate it by saying, here is where it is being done correctly and thoroughly and responsibly and comprehensively, because it was done so remarkably well. I was taken back. I did not expect the report to be as thorough. I did not expect them to have covered as much, but when they finished, it was a wow. And I really think that we can celebrate Washington State University's work, multi-campus, students, faculty, you know, people who are working on the campus. It just isn't done that well in most places, and we should celebrate success. So if I can get it in writing, I'm going to well circulate it on my list and say, no, COVID's not going to go away as quickly as we think it is. It's going to be around a while, and that's just what viruses do. This, you know, people keep thinking it's going to end at summer. It's not going to end at the end of summer. These pandemics never do, but it is key to have people who know what they're doing and have the right way. And Washington State University is all by itself at the moment in regards to its comprehensive approach of dealing with this virus. So I was just, I've been on this board a lot, but I've never been so excited about a meeting and what it made me think and what the possibilities of the work that we're doing there can be for WSU. So that's my report.
That's a great report, Ron. Look forward to the written version. Thank you.
Oh, I can't wait for it. Trust me. If I got it today, I would be mailing it to 100,000 people. It's stunning. It is stunning. Not just good. It is stunning.
Well, that's a great recommendation if coming from you. Very, very kindly. Thank you. Institutional and Infrastructure Committee report. Regent Redmond.
Well, Ron is a hard act to follow. My goodness. I was gonna brag about my committee, but I'm gonna stay humble. I will say that we are really fortunate that we have two rock star regents on our committee. We've got Regent Dickinson and Regent Shetler. And John, who was hampered by technology at this particular meeting, is going to be just a great addition because he knows so much about what we spend a lot of time on in the committee, which is building things. And we had only one future action item, no action items in our committee, but that relates to the new building that is in the design phase now at the Vancouver campus for life sciences, among other things. And really, there were no substantial questions about it. It's really looking terrific and very well thought out, on track to be LEED Gold at least, and to be just a great new addition to that campus. But we did talk about taking that committee's agenda up a level and talking about some more fundamental things. And so the four takeaways I had from that session were looking at the really excellent cost and operations controls that our facilities group has been able to develop over the last few years. They have been consistently coming in on time and under budget on the projects that they undertake. And so Olivia Yang and Stacy Pearson working together and their teams have, I think, really been showing the way for how we can perhaps look at other operations within the institution and figure out how to do more with less. So one takeaway for me was to see if there are some learnings out of their operations that we can take to other departments. The second takeaway was thinking about whether we want to have institutional standard for LEED certification across all of our buildings, and whether we're going to set some goals for ourselves there or some standards for ourselves. So we'll talk about that at a future committee meeting. The topic that we've all talked about a lot today, the built environment and philanthropy, and this new building in Vancouver is obviously an opportunity to test out some of those theories in practice, but we want to talk in our committee about how to be more comprehensively approaching the philanthropy in the context of new buildings. And then finally, an issue that we brought up, I think about a year ago, Stacy reminded me of that, was really looking at our real estate holdings comprehensively and figuring out whether there is something that we can do there that would be additive to the university that we're not already doing. So those are all sort of future, more strategic level discussions that we'll have at the committee. But I'm happy to report that in terms of how we're conducting our capital investments and our facilities projects, I think our team is just terrific. And with John now on the committee, we'll take it even to the next level, I'm sure.
Good news. Any questions for Heather? Thank you for the great report, Heather. Strategic and Operational Excellence Committee with Regent Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This committee of the whole had 4 action items and 4 information items. So I'm going to start with the action items today. The first one is asking approval for the mid-cycle review report for the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities. WSU will undergo an accreditation mid-cycle review by the Northwest Commission on Colleges and University in April of this year, so so next month. This is going to be a day plus site visit from a small team, but different from what we've seen in the past. The organization offered an opportunity to have the visit focus on developmental goals with team members coming from our aspirational institutions. So we jumped at that opportunity, and they are going to include some members to help us see what they're doing and an opportunity to help us improve our systems. So just real briefly, the report includes a framework for accreditation, strategic implementation and monitoring, how we assess student achievement, and areas in which we hope to show improvement for the next full accreditation. So at this point, Mr. Chairman, this item is ready for action.
Thank you, Regent Powell. On that note, I move that the Board of Regents approve the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities mid-cycle accreditation report as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 And opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right.
Okay. Our second action item was to discontinue required use of the SAT and ACT tests in WSU's admission process. In response to disruptions in the whole COVID-19 arena, the Washington State Achievement Council granted public universities with the ability to waive or make optional the SAT and ACT standardized tests. Turns out that nationally, the sentiment to move away from standardized tests has been building for a long time, particularly because of concerns for implicit cultural bias in these tests and resultant inequities among racial and ethnic groups. So after thoughtful discussions and consideration, the Office of Provost has proposed that WSU no longer require or utilize the SAT or ACT in the admissions process. We had quite a robust discussion about this topic yesterday, and this is now ready for action by the full board.
Thank you, Laura. Before bringing the motion, I note for the record that it was decided that this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item in accordance with Board of Regents Bylaw 2.12.b. So I move that the Board of Regents discontinue required use of the SAT and ACT in WSU admissions processes as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the action item? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Laura, please.
Okay. Action item 3 is a proposed revision to WAC 504-26 Standards of Conduct for Students. In May of 2020, the U.S. Department of Education published amendments to its regulations for implementing Title IX of Educational Amendments of 1972. The amended regulations specify how recipients of federal financial assistance covered by Title IX must respond to allegations of gender discrimination, including sexual harassment and sexual assault. The university filed emergency rulemaking order on August 14th, 2020. And we've had discussions about this as an information item and a future action item at the last few meetings. In accordance with University of Washington Administrative Code rules, a public hearing was held on January 20th, 21 to solicit comment. No comments were received, either written or oral, from the public on this matter. So this action item is now ready for board consideration.
Thank you, Regent Powell. The motion reads, I move that the Board of Regents approve revisions to WAC 504-26, the Standards of Conduct for Students, as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Okay. Action item 4 is a facilities naming proposal. And I yield the floor to Athletic Director Pat Chun.
Thank you, Regent Powell. And thank you, Regents. WSU Athletics is happy to announce we have agreed to a sponsorship agreement with GISA Credit Union. GISA Credit Union is Washington's GISA Credit Union is Washington's second largest credit union with over $4.4 billion in assets and is nearly 260,000 members strong. GISA is a full-service financial institution that offers a complete array of consumer, mortgage, and business products and services. Headquartered in Richland, GISA operates 26 branches across Washington and supports 12 student-operated high school branches. Our agreement with GISA is as follows. It's a 10-year, $11 million minimum sponsorship. The funds will support general operations of Cougar Athletics. There are additional milestones in the agreement that would create additional GISA donation opportunities to athletics. GISA is highly motivated to be active with athletics, the university at large, and within the Pullman community. The partnership will also include 2 branch GISA locations on the WSU Pullman campus in the Cub and the Spark, run by Washington State University students, and these agreements are done separate outside of athletics, and will also include branded athletics affinity cards. We would like to thank Washington State University alum and GISA CEO Don Miller for the commitment he and his team at GISA are making with WSU. We'd also like to thank President Schultz for his leadership, guidance, and efforts to help get this agreement past the goal line. So on behalf of Washington State Athletics, we respectfully submit the following request for naming of a campus facility. As we all know, the Palouse region of this country is renowned for its majestic fields, picturesque rolling hills, and some of the most important farmland in the entire world. Yet the most sacred field is 120 yards long, and it resides in Martin Stadium on the Pullman campus of the Washington State University system. WSU Athletics formally asked the Regents for approval, effective July 1, to name the playing surface in Martin Stadium GISA Field. Thank you for your consideration, and I will pause now for any questions or comments.
How does this impact BECU's partnership with WSU over the years? And I know that we've been working to cultivate different things with them.
Yes, this is a non-exclusive deal. So as some of you may know, we have existing sponsorship agreements, different type of sponsorship agreements with BECU, with US Bank. So this is specific to the naming of the field at Martin Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa, please.
So I just really want to applaud you for all of the team that worked to make this happen. I think Mike Connell mentioned just how difficult it is during COVID to do any sort of philanthropy work, and this is tremendous. So congratulations, and I'm just really excited to hear this announcement today. So good work, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa. And this, I mean, there was a point in the summer where President Schultz, members of Mary Jo Gonzalez's team, members of Stacey Pearson's team all had to be involved really throughout the last 13, 14 months to get this through the finish line. So as we worked hard to become a more integrated athletic department, it was wonderful to have so many partners across campus willing to help us deliver this deal to Washington State.
What size gift? Is this one of the largest gifts we've received in athletics at this time, or for the university? Where does this fit?
To our best knowledge, it'll be the largest one-time commitment we will have received in athletics.
Well, good job, GISA, even though I'm from STCU.
Thank you, Marty.
Up your game, Marty.
Yeah,
Okay, Mr. Chairman, this proposal is ready for action.
Thank you. Ron had a question, I believe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that.
No, I actually had a statement. Pat, I need to tell you this. You've been a remarkable athletic director, and I was still remember you coming up to Spokane, Washington, and speaking at Bob's service, and nothing. This is incredible what you're doing. I want to say to you that as a human being, you did a phenomenal job, and thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Ron.
That's a wonderful statement. Thank you, Ron. And I echo support for the athletic director as well. But if we're ready for the motion, before bringing the motion, I note for the record, it was decided that this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item, in accordance with Board of Regents bylaw 2.12.b. I move that the Board of Regents approve the facilities naming as proposed just now. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there other discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion to rename the certain athletic facility as proposed, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yay, congratulations.
Okay, now with that great, exciting final action item, we did have 4 information items as well. And the first one was an election of officers, and Chairman Blankenship alerted us that the election of officers will take place at our meeting on May 7th, 2020 at that Board of Regents meeting. Our second information item was an update on the modernization initiative and the Workday launch. It has gone spectacularly in my view, and I think the view of many of us. It was an extraordinary, difficult, complex project to basically update all these systems, human resource and payroll systems, and get them launched into the enterprise. And I can't commend enough the team of Matt Skinner and Stacy Pearson and many other colleagues for what they did and how well they integrated that. It's a great plus for our university that will be keeping on giving many excellent dividends for years to come. The next information item we had is an update on an initiative for data-informed decision-making. And we have looked at, there's a lot of things going on with that, including, getting someone to come in as a consultant to develop a data management plan, internal collaborations with work groups being formed system-wide, as well as external outreach and engagement. So a lot is going on with this, but the idea is to enable the university to really be able to up their game on using data for management and future planning. So we're looking forward to receiving additional updates as this project moves forward. And finally, our final information item was a legislative update. We're in mid-session now with the legislature, and we received a report about what's going on with the operational and the capital budget. Lots in flux, but we'll be hearing more in the near future. That, Mr. Chairman, concludes my report.
Thank you, Regent Powell. Excellent committee work. Now we have the Finance and Compliance Committee report with Regent Vice Chair Dickinson.
Thank you. We can move through these fairly quickly. We obviously all discussed our fiscal year 2022 housing and dining rates, and I'll turn it to you, Chair Blankenship, for the motion.
The motion before the board. I move that the Board of Regents approve the fiscal year 2022 housing and dining rates as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Other discussion? I call the question. I move that the Board of Regents approve the fiscal year 2022 housing and dining rates as proposed. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
We went through and discussed the fee adjustments for WSU Spokane, WSU Tricities, and WSU Vancouver as it pertains to revised service and activity fees for the academic year of 2020 and 21.
Before bringing the motion, I note for the record, it was decided that this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item in accordance with Board of Regents Bylaw 2.12.b. I move that the Board of Regents approve the revised services and activities fees for academic year 2020 to 2021 as proposed. Is there a second?
I second it. I second it.
Is there other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you. Again, we have another revised services and activity fees allocation for the academic year of 2020, 2021. It's the revised services. The Board of Regents approved S&A fee allocations for the summer of 2020 and academic year of 2020, 2021 for WSU Spokane. I'm confused on, these seem like they're the same one, but No, it's for the allocation piece. That's what it is. Sorry, excuse me, the separation of the academic side of it versus the allocation side of it.
So before I bring the motion, I note for the record, it was decided that this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item in accordance with Board of Regents bylaw 2.12.b. I move that the Board of Regents approve the revised services and activities fee allocations for academic year 2020 to 2021 as proposed. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Other discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
We obviously had some healthy discussion around information items. I just again would like to say congratulations to our team of people that have just had no findings in the audit report. It's really quite remarkable. So want to make sure that's on record. We reviewed our WSU financial statement and audit exit with Stacey Pearson and Matt Skinner. We reviewed the WSU comprehensive annual financial report, trends and debt report. And we discussed the integrated financial planning and forecasting and looking at our options. And we know that we have a future action item of the athletics budget that will be something we will be looking at come May, and lots of healthy dialogue around balance, communication, partnership, and how we lift the whole WSU boat together.
We have one more additional action item, the one-time revisions to certain mandatory fees.
I could just read it.
Okay, thank you.
So before, we do have one more action item. There was one-time revisions to certain mandatory student fees for academic year 20 and 21. And before bringing the motion, I note for the record, it was decided that this item will be presented as an action item rather than a future action item in accordance with Board of Regents bylaw 2.12.b. I move therefore that the Board of Regents approve one-time revisions to certain mandatory student fees for academic year 2020 to 2021 as proposed in committee. Is there a second?
I second it.
Is there other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Those are the action items.
That is my report.
Yeah. Thank you, Regent Dickinson. In other business, yesterday, March 11, the Regents met in executive session with legal counsel to discuss litigation or potential litigation in which the university is or could be a party. The board will not be taking any action as a result of those discussions. And as a comment, due to a technical malfunction, several regents were not able to participate in that executive session. They will be briefed individually by the Attorney General. And then that leads us to public comment period. We will now allow the next 10 minutes of the meeting for the public to provide comments to the board. Please keep in mind there's a 2-minute limit per speaker. And I will ask the clerk if anyone has signed up. No one speaking? No? Someone had signed up, and as a one-time favor, it was a professor wanted to talk to us. Didn't want them to have to reschedule their teaching class. So I will read, as a request, he asked that I read the letter. I don't want to set a precedence, but I will read the letter as we have time. This is from Luke Primo. WSU has floated the athletics department AD hereafter, $87 million of internal no strings attached loans to cover repeated annual operational deficits pre-COVID By their own estimate, the AD will incur another $32 million in operational deficit in the current year, which WSU will have to cover as well, either internally or with additional external financing. In addition, the AD currently carries $151.32 million of external debt, $113.35 million in principal, and $37.97 million in interest owed on that principal, for which WSU is ultimately liable. Thus, as I'm sure you know, the total debt, internal and external, of the AD will be around $250 million by this summer. Given that the AD is unlikely to turn a sizable profit in the short or long term, this extraordinary level of debt now clearly threatens the health of the entire institution. As WSU continues to internalize the AD's external debt, while at the same time the AD accumulates millions of dollars more in internal debt due to annual operating deficits, while potentially using unallocated funds funneled away from other non-academic departments to pay their annual Pac-12 membership fee. At what point will WSU itself, not just the AD, become insolvent? Regardless of who made this terrible bet on athletics, surely creditors and state legislators aren't going to kindly look on this mismanagement of funds. Nor are legislators going to be able to justify providing WSU with additional funds when they can see with their own eyes that those funds get moved around in order to pay off the AD's loans, rather than being used to meet the mission of our land-grant university. In light of $250 million of AD total debt and the administration's apparent lack of will to collect data to demonstrate whether the athletic department provides WSU any real value besides entertainment, let alone reconsider whether WSU can afford a non-sustaining athletics department at all, I implore you to consider a simple but important question. What are we doing here at WSU? What is the purpose of WSU? I can tell you that the faculty and staff work tirelessly to fulfill the three-part mission of our public institution: education, research, and outreach. Our mission doesn't include providing paid sports entertainment. We are justifiably alarmed because we see quite clearly how $250 million and counting of AD debt will jeopardize our work towards that end. Please also think about what our stakeholders, the citizens of Washington, demand from WSU. From the perspective of the faculty and staff, it is clear that our stakeholders want an affordable, well-respected place of higher learning and cutting-edge research, a competent and honest institution that not only educates our citizens at all stages of their lives, but also drives innovation and economic growth in our state and region. Unfortunately, what we've got right now is membership in the Pac-12 at all costs. One doesn't have to be a financial wizard to see that sticking with the status quo won't end well for WSU students, stakeholders, and employees. Although it won't be fun, popular, or easy, we must seriously rethink the role of athletics at WSU in light of the AD's enormous and growing debt. We must start now. Thank you. And then there was one other comment. I'll go ahead and mention it. I support the discontinuing required use of the SAT and ACT in the university's admissions process. From Armando Antonino. So that's the public comment period. And at the end of that, we are at the end of our agenda, and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.